First it was France, then it was Spain, then it was Sicily, and now it's the UK. But my big question, and I want you guys to help me out with this as well, is if Spain can sort this problem out in 48 hours, why on earth can't the UK? Now, unless you've been living under a rock the last 48 hours, you will know that a whole load of invaders invaded Spain from Morocco. They came up, as we can see, swam across the ocean. I say swam across the ocean, it was a few miles. Probably took about 10 minutes at the most, so, from an area called Ceuta straight into Spain. And this little diagram where it says allowed areas right here is going to be really interesting later on in this video. And if you are currently a resident in the UK, you're probably going to think a lot more about that allowed areas in a moment when I explain it a bit more. Now, first of all, imagine this. Imagine you are a Spaniard living your happy life in Spain, and within 48 hours, literally thousands of predominantly men, young men, working age men, storm your town, storm your house, your shops, start treating your roads like the public toilet, and then basically start waving around a whole load of all sorts of things, telling you what you can and you can't do in your own country by people who have literally just swam across the sea and completely invaded a country which isn't even theirs rightfully to live in. Well, that's pretty much what's happened in Spain. However, mainstream media has not presented it like that. Mainstream media has presented it as some type of a humanitarian crisis. So let's just zoom in on that humanitarian crisis just a little bit, shall we? Because I do find this quite remarkable. So, all of these men, they seem to be quite young-ish. They're all fully clothed, latest, designer sportswear, lots of sunglasses, hats, bags. There's the Nike logo literally everywhere here. And of course, we know from TikTok that many of them were streaming their swims live as they swam across the sea with their iPhones with data, which kind of begs the question as to how could this actually be some type of a humanitarian crisis? And if they have food and shelter, as they do in Morocco, why have they done this? Oh, and just in case anyone wants to say it's these for these poor women and children, I can't actually see any at all in that picture. In fact, none of the images that I've looked at have any women or children in. Now, if you're from the UK, you know this type of story a lot. I actually live on the south coast. I live near the beach, and we have this problem an awful lot. And like Spain have experienced, it has literally turned what was a beautiful town into a place where you aren't even safe pretty much to walk in the day, let alone at night. Now, I'm not tarring everyone with the same brush, because obviously I think there's nothing wrong with immigration, but illegal immigration done in the way that it is being done like right now is really quite serious. But here's the interesting part, and guys, just think about the UK, because I bet there's lots of people watching this video right now who live in the UK who've had their entire towns taken over, where hotels have been closed to the public to house illegal immigrants. The people from those towns that would have worked in those hotels have been fired because apparently illegal immigrant hotels have to employ their own illegal immigrants, which is a little bit odd because surely, unless they've actually been given all the paperwork, they shouldn't actually be working in the UK, however. And I'm sure lots of you are very annoyed. Those of you who are disabled in particular or have long-term health conditions and struggle to see a consultant or a doctor or even a dentist are equally annoyed when you find out that in these hotels there are QR codes literally pinned on the wall in reception where these visitors can get doctor's appointments, dental appointments, literally within the hotel. They don't even have to go anywhere. Now, I was going to say make that make sense because clearly it doesn't. So let's have a little look at how Spain have dealt with this. And then I think this begs the question, what the hell is the UK doing? It's not rocket science, is it? Sometimes basic things work, and I'm going to explain why this is actually a little stroke of genius from the President of Spain. So after this happened, within 48 hours, I might point out, not 4 years, not 4 months, not 14 weeks, within 48 hours, a floating barrier goes into the sea. And behind that barrier, obviously on the Spanish side, you have got the army, the police and border control sitting in their boats. Now, if you go and visit any south coast in the UK, you most definitely do not see anybody in boats from any of the UK authorities doing that. So why is Spain doing this, but the UK isn't? And why have they got this barrier? Let me explain it. Meet Pedro Sanchez, who is the president of Spain, and clearly he isn't a silly man. Now, lots of mainstream media were like, oh, he hasn't done anything as soon as these invaders invaded. He's gone to bed, and he hasn't done anything the next day and didn't really get into motion apparently till 11 o'clock in the morning. However, I think what he was doing was planning this, because by putting this barrier in the water, not only does it, provide a very visible line which everybody can see, it actually implements a legality which then gives Spain the right to take action. And I think the UK, you need to listen here, especially the people that just don't seem to be able to manage our borders. Now, this 500-metre floating long barrier is more than just floats. They are visual and naval sea boundaries. You would think that the people whose job it is, who are paid by the taxpayer in the UK, would know the information that I'm going to tell you next. So the Spanish Supreme Court actually ruled that in order for a country, for Spain, to return any illegal immigrants to their hometown, the legal boundary has to be physically installed. There we go. It has to be a physical object. So where is the sea? Where is your sea, Morocco? Where is ours? Does Spain say? Well, now there is no obvious, confusion. And because of that, it means as soon as they cross that boundary, they can simply be returned to their homeland. Now, not only is that genius, but the next part is genius too. Spain made it very, very clear to these invaders that they would get no welfare, no food, and no money. Literally none. Because they've entered Spain illegally. Well, some of these invaders, they did this. They obviously thought, oh, I know, let's all congregate. Let's start burning out cars and lorries and all the rest of it. And Spain will do as we say. Well, that didn't work either, did it? Because here they are being marched out of Spain by the military back to the border, as we can see here. Quite simply, in 48 hours. So why can't the UK do that? And in France, they've actually started doing the same thing on the south of France as well, so that, they can't then come up through mainland Spain and come to France. However, interestingly enough, lots of people have stated, some of these invaders, that their final destination is the UK. Why is that? The smallest country, where work, employment, and housing would be clearly an issue, because the UK is the smallest country out of them all. Well, I think we know the answer to that. Which leads me on to the next issue, which is your financial fortune. If you think going to work in the UK to pay for services that you can't ever really access because they're overprescribed, because the UK seems to give access to many of the services that you pay for with your tax to everybody else that doesn't actually even have the legal right to be here, you might want to start thinking outside of the box and preparing for your own financial future. And I have left a free little download below as to the different things that I'm doing and have been doing for many years actually now to build independent income outside of the system, because we can see the system in the UK just isn't working well for people that want to work or people that pay a bit of tax. And heaven forbid you be too unwell to work, well, they're not going to help you either, or they're going to make it as difficult as possible. Now, Morocco haven't actually published a statement about this yet, which I think is really odd. And of course, our Prime Minister has offered their support. I would say, what? What support can you offer? Sort your own borders out, the UK, please. How can you offer support to a country that's actually got their border control totally in order, like 1,000 times better than the UK? Someone make that make sense. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think. And this is why I think Morocco haven't yet featured any type of a statement. First of all, I've looked at a lot of this footage on TikTok and on X. And the only way I can describe the expression of the vast majority of all the males, I wish I could say females as well, but as we can see there aren't any, males entering Spain was jovial, very happy, looking up to the sky. It's almost like they've been let out of prison. And I thought, I wonder if that's what they've done, if they've just opened their prisons and said, off you go, as long as you don't stay in Morocco, you flee this country, you're good. I mean, this is just an idea, I don't know. The second point, and as I've blown this up, I can actually see 3 women here. But the second point is how they all seem to have mobile phones, glasses. Nobody here seems to be in extreme poverty, do they? Gold chains. I mean, let's look. This guy is wearing a gold chain. This one's on, wow, a very big, nice phone. Wow, he's on a phone as well, isn't he? Nicely dressed in his little shirt. Oh, look, there's another phone there. There's a lovely Adidas designer top. I mean, this guy looks quite well kitted out, or they look like good, solid boots. I mean, let's be honest. None of these people look like destitute, hungry, poor people, do they? Now, I think Italy have had the right idea here. And again, maybe the UK want to take a leaf out of Italy's book. As can be seen from this invader, obviously so destitute with his leather wallet and his credit cards, there, pictured there. Italy have actually removed the Spain from their Schengen area. So if I can just blow that up a little bit. So basically what that means is that if people or illegal invaders enter into Spain, that they can no longer move freely as normally they would be able to do, because Spain is in one of the countries in the Schengen area. Italy have said, no, sorry, anyone coming from Spain is not allowed. So they've removed that for a month. Who knows what's going to happen after that? We'll have to wait and see. Now, again, I think Italy did that in 48 hours. So Spain can do that in 48 hours to control their borders. Italy does that. What's going on in the UK? We are a much smaller country, a much smaller island to, when it comes to border control. So why are we so backward? Why are we so failing in this area? Maybe if the UK government got a better handle on really what they're paid to do and actually did it, maybe the UK would be a nicer place to live. Maybe people would love to go to work because they would have pride in their country, pride in their job. They would know that it would be worth working in a job because they would be able to beat cost of living. They might be able to buy a house. I mean, there's a lot of people in their 40s, 50s and 60s and beyond that can't even afford to buy a house in the UK. And these are people, by the way, that have worked all their life in the UK. So that says an awful lot, doesn't it, about a country? It says an awful lot about what a country thinks and does for its people. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with the image of, obviously, the president of Spain, and I'm also going to leave you with an image of another man that also knows how to run his country very well, in my humble opinion. And that is the president of Poland. What is our prime minister doing? Going round, reducing the price of bus tickets, which is wonderful, but come on. I think it's time for the UK to pick up the pace. Because if these countries can do it in 48 hours, what the hell is the UK doing?